Welcome back to the channel. Just doing a bit of a race review from last weekend's European Duathlon Championships, which was part of the Powerman Alsdorf race over in Germany. So had a four-day trip, actually five-day trip. So from Thursday to Monday. Luckily, the race was over the May Bank holiday, so actually only needed a couple of days off work, which was good. So the Powerman race doubled up as the European Duathlon Champs, middle distance, so that's a 10km run, 60km bike and a 10km run. So done a couple of races, not last year but the year before, a couple of qualification races in the UK. I was hoping to race the championships last year, but unfortunately the middle distance championships never actually materialised, which was a shame, as I'd missed sort of my entry for the standard distance championship. So I haven't raced internationally for 2 years now, or the last race I did was in Bilbao in Spain, which was a bronze at the standard distance. So yeah, this was the first big sort of international race I've done for a couple of years, so I was looking forward to this. And also I've got 6 weeks time in Cumbria in Portugal. I've got the standard distance duathlon champs as well, European. So so decided race was in Germany, West Germany, just off the sort of the Belgium and Netherlands sort of border. So decided actually to drive out. One, just made bike transportation a lot easier rather than sort of getting my bike onto the plane and etc. And also it was only a 4-hour drive from Calais to Alsdorf. So actually I got a ferry crossing about 11 o'clock, so up early on Thursday morning, 5:15 left the house, sort of 3-4 hours down to Dover, stopped just outside of Dover to fill up the car again to get a full tank of petrol before heading over on the ferry. So caught the ferry, I think it was about 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and actually landed in Calais at 1:30, sort of local time, obviously with the clocks going an hour forward there. And then I took a steady drive from Calais all the way through to Germany, and just had a bit of a stop on route there as well. So we actually went up through Dunkirk, up through and past Bruges and Ghent, and then sort of around sort of Brussels, and then sort of coming down to past Liège. Any cyclists will know, the sort of Liège-Bastogne-Liège. So, and then sort of travelled into the Netherlands and into Germany from there. The motorways were pretty good, to be fair, except sort of in and around Brussels, which was a bit not too good. Unfortunately, the sat nav was sort of getting me to come off on certain roads and then back on and back off, which wasn't very helpful. So I had a little bit of a disaster really around Brussels, sort of going into some of the suburbs. In hindsight, should have just stayed on the motorway and just sat in the traffic for a bit. So actually on the way home we came back a slightly different way, a bit more southerly, so coming underneath Brussels the opposite way. But all in all, a pretty straightforward drive, and the traffic is so much better over in sort of the European countries, and the motorways are just so much better. I think generally the speed limits are 130 kilometres on a lot of the sort of dual carriageways, motorways, and I think in the wet it comes down to about 120 km, so that's about 80 miles an hour. So Thursday we got there about 7 o'clock in the end, had a pizza. Actually staying at a place called Cap One Board House. I think it was Cap One Board House, which was sort of like a hotel to a certain extent, but it had sort of like a couple of hobs in there, so I could cook some food, fridge as well with a little freezer compartment and a microwave. So actually it meant that we could cook quite a bit of food ourselves rather than having to find somewhere to eat every night, even though there was a sort of a restaurant. They only did sort of breakfast over the weekend, so the Friday morning just meant that we could do our own breakfast in the actual room itself. So Friday, got up, went for sort of 5.5 mile run, a little bit drizzly, to be fair, on the Friday morning, but I managed to get out around, I think it was a place called Carl Alexander or Alexander Park, so the place where we were staying was an old mining town, and there's quite a bit of area of the just outskirts of the town, which sort of like a nature reserve stroke forestry area, which I think had a lot of EU funding to sort of redevelop this area. So that was quite nice, just to get out on some of the trails and have a bit of a run around. Like I said, it was a little bit drizzly, but it wasn't cold, so it was quite nice. So sort of did that sort of 5.5 mile steady state running. Came back, and then I had a strength and conditioning session on the Friday, although I didn't take my weights with me, so it was more just a conditioning session really, in terms of just stretching, loosening the body up ready for the race day on Sunday. And then sort of after sort of the session at 11, we went into Alsdorf itself just to scout out where I needed to pick the numbers up, make sure, finding out where I needed to park on race day, and just generally trying to familiarise myself with the area. So we stayed about 5k out from Alsdorf itself, and Alsdorf is an alright town. It's not a sort of one of these places that is quite scenic or sort of anywhere really special in that sense. Not like some of the places that I've raced, where like Bilbao in Spain last couple of years ago, when a race was on beautiful old sort of Spanish city along the river, and it was just really picturesque, and it just had a lot of it just felt nice. Whereas this place was just sort of like I suppose just a general sort of town. It wasn't that it was bad in any way. It just didn't have a lot of wasn't anywhere that you'd venture out to for holiday or anything like that. So it didn't really have much there either. Had a big supermarket, a couple of coffee shops. Did actually have a vegan restaurant, which was good. But other than that, just had not really much there. But the surrounding area was nice. So I caught up with a couple of the team in the town itself. Went for a bit of a coffee and had a bit of a waffle, and then just sort of scouted out the shop where we needed to pick all our numbers up on the Saturday. So, and then on the on the Friday, then just went home after having a bit of a coffee and a bit of a wander around, and then just went out and did sort of an hour on the bike, on the TT bike, just to make sure that it was all right, just to spin the legs out before the race on Sunday. So that the Friday actually had sort of a normal Friday day really, in terms of run session, bit of strength and conditioning, and then just a gentle bike as well then in the evening or late afternoon, which the weather was quite nice by that point. And then on the Saturday is obviously the day before the race, and on the Saturday we just looked to chill out really, got up, had some breakfast, and then went into the town on the Saturday and just picked up the numbers. So picked up the timing chip, obviously the numbers for your bike, the numbers for your actual race belt and things like that, and then sort of got a nice t-shirt and a goodie bag of a few things, with sort of some energy drinks, sort of salts and things like that in there. So Saturday was again just familiarising myself with the town. They'd actually started to map out some of the finishing gantries and those sorts of things, and starting to close off some of the roads which would have been used for the race. And then when we were there as well, also caught up with Pete and a guy called Stu, who both live in Stourbridge. So it's Stu's first GB international race. So and Pete's, I've done a few races with Pete now and done a few sessions with him locally when we can, but we we then went out for sort of a pizza in the afternoon, so just to get some good food in. So I went to the local pizza place, standardised sort of margarita for me, pre-race day. Nutrition, which is what I always have when I'm at home or when I'm trying to race abroad as well. Just try and find a pizza, because I always find can't really go wrong with that. So we had the pizza on the sort of mid afternoon really, then sort of made our way back to the apartment, and then just get the bike ready, get all the labels, get my kit sort of sorted. So just ensuring that I've got my number in my race belt. Actually, they give us a little timing chip for our ankles, but actually they had a timing chip on the back of sort of the race belt, which is sometimes sort of like on the race number, which is sometimes what you do when you have a lot of sort of running races now. They'll put like a little chip on the back of the number instead of having a big sort of plastic thing that you put onto your ankles, which was quite good. So so once I was back at the hotel, really just making sure the kit was sorted, the bike was all right, and just making sure then that I was just trying to stay relaxed and chill out a little bit. I think also the Giro started when we were there, so just watched a bit of that on the telly on the Saturday, and then normally, because I'd had the pizza in the afternoon, decided to actually then cook sort of a bit of pasta and a bit of tomato sort of bolognese and stuff in the room. So just had that for dinner for dinner. So that was quite nice, and then just tried to keep as hydrated as I could. The hotel wasn't actually quite nice. I just chilled out in the hotel room, watched a bit of Netflix, and just tried to get as much sleep as I could. And then Sunday, race day, up pretty early on race day, but we were only sort of 5k, and I think transition didn't open till sort of 7 o'clock anyway, so we didn't really leave the apartment until about 6:30. I was up about 5:30, 5:45. I got everything ready. We left the sort of apartment about 6:30, 6:45 to get to the race transition, and then the race I think started at 8:45. So a couple of the elite races started before us. So the men's elite and the women's elite both started before our race. I think it was the women's elite race first. So a couple of the team from Western Tempo also in that. I think Rachel Brown's in the women's elite, and I think they ended up finishing 6th. And then we had Matt Nielsen, who was in the men's elite as well, and I think he was either 4th or 5th overall in the men's race. So a couple of good performances from the Western Tempo team there. And then we set off at 8:45. So race consisting, like I said, 10k run in and around the town, pretty flat to be fair, a little bit twisty, some of it on like a loose-ish gravel bit of track, but you could run along with bricks at the side as well, so it wasn't too bad, but it was quite a quickish run course. A couple of little climbs, but nothing major at all, so it's a pretty fast sort of 10k loop to be fair. And then then we had a 60k bike, which was 3 laps of 20k, and a lot of sort of out and back sort of loops as well, so which was quite nice. You could see a lot of people on the turnarounds ahead and behind you, so it enabled you to see where you were within the race, and so that was pretty good. And then final sort of 10k to finish. So in terms of the race itself, first 10k was pretty good. It's really difficult to tell where I came in position wise on each of the races, because they basically started, I think it's the under 20s all the way up to the under 50s all in one race, and unfortunately I didn't think there was any numbers to sort of be able to understand who was in your age category and not. So that was one bit of shame in one way, not knowing who was in your category. So you're sort of racing everyone to a certain extent, which isn't bad, but it is sort of quite nice to know when someone's coming past you in your age group, or you're just passing someone in your age group, so you get a bit more of a sense of where you are within the race. So first 10k, I think probably just under 10k to be honest, and I think I averaged 5:45 miles. I think the first few miles were about 5:30ish. I think I probably eased off a little bit on the last sort of 5 or 6, 5th or 6th mile, coming in and around 34, and just check 34, 36, which wasn't a bad run to be fair, knowing that I've got a longer bike and a 10k to finish. So it's pretty good split. I think generally the quickest sort of mile splits I've been doing are around 5:35ish for the sort of standard distance. So running a 5:45, I was pretty pleased with that. but quite a bit of work to do on the bike. So and then the bike itself, well, even before the bike, the transition area was a really long transition, and I was undecided whether to ride with or to put the shoes on the bike or leave the shoes on the floor and run in the shoes. Some of the races in the UK, especially when they're on sort of in the wet conditions and the transitions are on grass, sometimes I will run in the cycling shoes and the transitions aren't that long, and if you're not jumping on the bike and absolutely on it, sometimes it can be a little bit dicey. But as a transition must have been 200 metres, if not a little bit more, and my bike was right at the one end of the transition, which was great because I knew exactly where it was. It just meant it was a long run out, and so I decided to put the shoes on the bike with the elastic bands. So I came into transition was pretty good, to be fair. I think I was through transition in about, looking at the results here, 1:19. I think two guys that went on to sort of finish first and second, their transitions were closer to a minute. So I think some of it as well is that sometimes I'll keep a gel in transition and a little water, and I'll take a little bit longer than perhaps I should in terms of getting a bit of nutrition in whilst I'm in transition, or putting my gels in my back pocket. So something to perhaps for me to consider moving forward is just be a bit more confident with just maybe putting some more gels on the bike, or having them on me so that I'm not wasting a bit of time, because I think I lost out through two transitions close to sort of 50 seconds on the winner of my age category just in the transition area. So outside of that, yeah, straight onto the bike, and I've been riding really well lately. The bike went pretty well. First 20k, I really hit quite hard in terms of trying to get back through the athletes that were, or the runs that were further up the road. So I ran a 34-36. The quicker guys in my category were running 33:15s, 33:50. So lost a minute and a half on the first run to the quicker run guys. Close to just a minute and 20 probably down on them. So but got onto the bike, worked my way through quite a few early packs. First time over that distance I've really had to sort of be in a race environment. It's actually more difficult than you think, because there's a lot of trains of people on the road, so you get in groups of 4 or 5 people that you've got to work past, and you obviously have your in the draft legal or the draft illegal race that I do, I think it's 12 metre sort of distance that you can't draft in. Then also you're given so much amount of time that you've got to overtake people. So actually if you're going through a pack of 4 or 5 people, you've got to keep that intensity and whilst you're overtaking, and then sort of settle back into a rhythm. So it's a bit sort of like a up and over session in a way. It's sort of like you're riding a good 240, 250 watts, and then you're having to ramp it up to 260, 70, 80 to try and get past the groups of athletes. So I actually caught up with Jonathan Peters, who I know really well, and he'd sort of outrun me on the first run, but I sort of got back up to him. I think it was pretty much through the 20k mark, just after 20k onto the second lap. I got past him and tried to sort of encourage him to get on the wheel as such and work with me, but he couldn't quite keep the wheel. But I knew he was a really good runner, so I probably actually needed to get away from him to a certain extent, although he's in a different age category. I needed to put some time into him if I was to sort of beat him on the day. And then second lap, actually going back and looking at my splits, I think I was about 29 minutes and something, and I think I was within that 10 seconds on the second lap to what I was on the first lap. So split wise, I was really in a good sort of really in a good rhythm, holding the watts. I think something I need to work on is understanding what watts I can ride at, and physically what's my limit, where do I need to ride out. I was sort of guessing it a little bit last weekend, so I sort of in a riding in around 250 with the idea of actually not trying to go too much over 300 when there's a few inclines and bits on the race, just to make sure that I wasn't burning any matches and that I'd just blow up to a certain extent. So 250 watts felt reasonably comfortable for me. I wasn't in the red. I haven't currently got a heart rate monitor, so that might be something I need to just think about getting again, just so that I can manage not just the watts but also my heart rate to make sure that I'm not overdoing it. But yeah, so the bike actually biked really well. I worked my way through, and I think I was either second or third quickest on the bike. I think the quickest bike was 1:29.56 and I was 1:30.09, so and that included, I was a bit easy on the last sort of half a mile back into transition, really came off the pace, got a bit of nutrition in, got the shoes out on top of my feet on top of the shoes, and so the last section I was quite easy. But before that, I suppose on the last lap of the bike, it was a good group, about 4 of us, myself and a German guy, were really sort of pulling the train to a certain extent. There's a couple of people probably sitting on, and although in a draft illegal race you can't obviously get the benefit of drafting, but even with the 12 metre sort of gap, if you're sitting 4th wheel, 5th wheel, you get some benefit at 25 to 30 mile an hour. So but I wanted to try to maximise the bike, so felt that actually I needed to get on the front, put the effort in and work hard. So luckily one of the German guys, who's in a younger age group, and I think he went on to silver in the end. I think myself and him really worked hard and shared some of the pace setting, which was really good, just to give me one bit of a mental break as well from sitting on the front and doing all the work. So we worked really well together. He actually got me a note on Strava afterwards to say thanks for the harmonious sort of work together, and really appreciated us. And I said he also commented that we had a couple of people that were just dead weight to a certain extent and just not helping us. So all in all, the bike was, I think, pretty good, a 1:30.09, which actually worked out average speed was about 24.8, which actually I need to go back and have a look. That's my quickest average mile an hour over a 40k race, and obviously this was 60k, so I think that's probably, from a average speed wise, one of my best performances. I think from the watts it probably wasn't. I think I've done a post, I don't know if it's 270, 280 watts when I was 4th at the Worlds a few years ago. So but obviously that was over a shorter distance, and also not having to run a 10k off the back of the bike as well. So second transition wasn't too bad. Probably be a little bit quicker. I was unsure whether the helmet needed to be on the bike or on the floor, so I was faffing around a little bit with that, but got the shoes on, got out, and then just tried to settle into a good pace on the run, not knowing how the legs were going to feel. They weren't too bad, and sort of going through the first mile about 6:15, and just thought, right, I'll just try and hold momentum, hold that pace, and see how that works out. Yeah, and I think for the 4 laps on the run, so it was sort of like got through the first lap, felt not too bad, and I didn't want to push on too much on the second lap, but sort of tried to maintain that pace and that rhythm, and then into the third lap had a little bit of a wobble and a little bit of a tummy cramp a little bit on the third lap, but nothing that was really did anything to my performance on the day. It was only sort of like a little ouch, sort of like a bit of a cramp, but sort of got through that and then cracked on again. And then once I got into that last lap, it was just, then it was just a bit of a war of nutrition, just trying to keep the pace going as much as possible, try not to let anyone come past me. In the end, sort of running, I think, a 37.51, which, looking at the results, I was probably a little bit slower than a lot of the guys on that last run. Whether I needed to push on a little bit more the first couple of laps, I'm not sure. Finished running pretty even splits, so maybe there was a little bit more there, but who knows. I think after the race, I think I'd probably timed my effort just about right. So overall, age group wise, I was 5th, which looking back, pretty pleased with. I think I just got outrun on the day. A couple of quick runners. I was actually only looking at the results, only a few seconds off 4th. I think, yeah, 15 seconds off 4th place, but the 2nd and 3rd, I was 2:45.22, winner was 2:39.35, 2nd was 2:39.45, and then 3rd was 2:41, so I was still a good 4 minutes down on 4th place, so looking at that, pretty pleased. 5th in the age group, 1st Brit back in my age group, and 3rd Brit back overall, so I can't really grumble with that. Out of all the age categories, 3rd Brit back. So all in all, it's pretty pleased with the weekend. So post race then just chilled out, when I watched the medal ceremony, watched some of the team. Adam Dart, I think he's in the under 20 to 24. He was 4th overall, won his age group, really great performance. And then Owen James, who I know really well, his wife Lindsay, first middle distance race, she was 1st in her age group as well, so some good results. And then a guy called Andy Neese, who I know, he's in the age group just above me, which I'll move up into next year. He finished 3rd in his age category, so it was a good performance from him as well, so it's good to see him racing well. Actually, he wasn't too far behind. On turnarounds on the bike, I could see him and a group of other British guys, so he looked like he was cycling well. His position looked good. So all in all, pretty pleased with the race. It was great to get on the podium, but I got everything out of myself. Raced pretty well, I think. Performance-wise, it was a really good performance on the day. And then now I've got 5 weeks actually this weekend now to get ready for Portugal. I've got a TT, 25-mile TT in 2 weeks' time, or not next weekend, the weekend after, so the bank holiday weekend. And then just focus on just ticking off the sessions now, ready for Portugal, and seeing if I can get on the podium there. Yeah, so that was a bit of a race report. Hope you enjoyed it, and if you haven't, like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you all soon, if not on the channel, hopefully on the start line or racing. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.